better get up, stand up. If you've been done wrong, you better stand up for your rights like that Marley song. Get yourself represented, lawfully defended. Know your human rights, don't ever surrender. No.
Welcome to Justice for All, the program that takes you through the ins and outs of Jamaica's legal and justice systems and how they affect you. Children are the future, but they're also the most vulnerable members of society. And with many Jamaican youth involved in the justice system in one way or another, we decided to take a look at the laws in place to protect them.
Sexual abuse is the most common form of abuse that is found in Jamaica. This is not only confined to girls. Boys are also abused sexually. It has to do with the people that we entrust our children with. For example, caregivers, the bus drivers and conductors who transport our children to and from schools, as also family members, whether it be uncles, fathers, brothers. They are the ones who have the greater opportunity to abuse our children. If it's a case where the report is made to us, we either remove the suspect or the child from the home, because we cannot have the child in the same environment as the suspect. We have to remove them and carry out our investigation.
Daddy, don't touch me there. I'm gonna tell on you one day, I swear.
Are there any special arrangements for victims of child abuse or witnesses to the act?
Okay, if a child has been abused, initially they will be interviewed with special provisions by police officers and social workers who are trained to interview children who've been abused. When the matter gets to court, there isn't a special arrangement for the child to give evidence, because the Evidence Act at the current time does not provide for arrangements for vulnerable witnesses, which is what we would call children who have been abused. Because of that, the child has to still, first of all, be considered as a child who can give evidence. So they have to be assessed as to whether or not they understand right and wrong in order for them to give evidence. And it's regarded as evidence from a child of tender years. Then you have the issue of the child giving evidence in front of the accuser in circumstances where there are no special arrangements. So it's often very traumatic for a child, and so what that has presented is the need for legal reform to allow children to be shielded, as they are in, say, the UK or in the US, from the person who they accuse as being the perpetrator. That hasn't been done yet. It is in, I believe there are motions for the reform to take place.
We have had 2,200 cases to date for the year. For the years previous, since the setting up of the Office of the Children Registry, we have had approximately 3,000 cases per year to deal with.
And what's the completion rate like? Or
completion rate and success rate is, because it's a suspicion, most of the cases, like say about 1,500 of them, tend to be completed very quickly. The others that have to have further investigation, children brought before the court, those are a process and they take some time. So we still have like about 500, some figures still pending.
What happens to children found guilty of committing a serious crime?
Depending on the crime and depending on the circumstances of the child, the judge in those cases will have the option of either remanding a child to a correctional facility, which is under the Child Care and Protection Act is regarded as a juvenile correction facility. However, in circumstances where children need to be remanded, we are aware that there are situations where children are remanded alongside adults. That's been something that we have obviously been very concerned about. Of course, detaining a child with adults would be traumatic for the child, would be another form of abuse, and is in breach of both domestic law and international law. And most of our laws are in accordance with the United Nations Conventions on the Rights of the Child. And one of the provisions of the United Nations Convention on the Rights of the Child is that children should not be detained with adults.
In Jamaica, child abuse is growing. People are becoming more aware of it. What constitutes abuse? Is a slap abuse? Physically touching someone, harming them in any way? What is abuse?
Let's put it in the context of Jamaica. If you beat a child, you can be taken to court and you can be charged with the offence of having assaulted that child, whether that child belongs to you or not. And a lot of people don't appreciate that.
Did you know a 2002 study estimated that more than 6,000 children are living and working on the streets of Jamaica? By law, you must provide information to the authorities if you suspect a child has been, is being, or is likely to be abandoned or abused. You should also contact the authorities if you suspect a child is in need of care and protection. Having sex with a child under 16 is carnal abuse, and it's illegal. Neglecting a child can result in a 3-year maximum sentence. More serious forms of abuse are punishable with higher sentences. If you suspect a child is being abused, call 1-888-PROTECT. For information on children's rights, contact the Office of the Children's Advocate by calling toll-free 1-888-948-1134 or visit ocajamaica.com. If you have any questions about children in the legal system, contact Jamaicans for Justice in Kingston at 755-4524-6 or visit JFJ online at jamaicansforjustice.org. And that's it. Hope you enjoyed the show. But remember, justice for one is justice for all.
You better get up, stand up. If you've been done wrong, you better stand up for your rights like that Marley song. Keep yourself represented, lawfully defended.